The Ghazis were a unique phenomenon of the medieval Islamic world, warriors for whom serving the faith was the meaning of life. They defended the borders of Muslim states, fought against the enemies of Islam, and spread its ideals. Their history is connected with an era of continuous conflicts, changes, and conquests, and their image lives on in legends and chronicles. Who were the Ghazis? How did they become a symbol of holy war, and what was truly at the core of their way of life? Let me remind you that you are on the Amazing History channel, a channel for those who truly love history. And today I will continue the series of episodes dedicated to various military formations and religious movements of the medieval East. Before I continue, please don't forget to support the channel through sponsorship on YouTube or Patreon. I would also appreciate your support. A like, a subscription, and of course a kind comment. Let's get to the topic of this episode. To understand what preceded the emergence of the Ghazis, we need to go back to pre-Islamic times. At that time, the Arabian Peninsula was inhabited by numerous tribes whose lives were closely intertwined with wars, raids, and the defense of their territories. In the absence of a unified state structure, tribal ties played the main role, and military actions were most often local in nature. These could be intertribal conflicts, plundering raids known as Ghazwa, or the protection of trade caravans. Despite the frequency of conflicts, these wars followed certain traditions and did not always aim for the complete destruction of the enemy. The military traditions of pre-Islamic Arabia were based on personal valor and warrior honor. Warriors strove for glory, and it was considered noble to protect the weak and their allies. This culture gave rise to heroic epics, songs, and poems that glorified Ghazis and the courage and honor of warriors. The weaponry of that time was simple: swords and spears, bows and arrows, and the main tactical advantage was the camel or the horse. The neighboring regions of Persia, Byzantium, and India had their own military structures, which also influenced the Arabian Peninsula. For example, pre-Islamic Arab tribes often served as mercenaries in the armies of major powers, where they adopted the organization and tactics of more advanced armies. These contexts laid the foundation for future transformations that came with Islam. With the advent of Islam on the Arabian Peninsula, warfare underwent radical changes, including the emergence of a new type of warrior, Ghazi. This word, derived from the Arabic root Gaza, which means to invade or to fight, acquired a special meaning in the context of the spread of the new faith. Prophet Muhammad united the Arab tribes under the banner of Islam, offering them a new purpose, not just raids for wealth, but a struggle to establish a single divine order. Already in the first battles of the Muslims, such as at Badr and Uhud, the warriors began to see their participation in combat as the fulfillment of a religious duty. The victory at Badr in 624 strengthened the Muslims' belief that success on the battlefield was possible only because of their loyalty to Allah. The Ghazis became a symbol of this new ideology. They were not just soldiers, but people who saw war as a way to serve the faith, protect the community, the Ummah, and spread Islam. In the early stages, the Ghazis did not have a clearly defined status, but their actions shaped the image of the ideal Muslim warrior, brave, disciplined, and devoted to Allah. The armament of the Ghazis evolved from pre-Islamic traditions. They used swords, spears, and shields, but now war was waged with new moral principles. Battles were no longer just a struggle for resources or territory. They became jihad, a holy struggle that could be both defensive and offensive. By the time of the rightly guided caliphs, the Ghazi already played an important role in the wars that spread the Islamic faith far beyond the Arabian Peninsula. In the early days of Islam, any Muslim could become a Ghazi if he joined a group participating in a Ghazawat, a war for the faith, which was a narrower concept than jihad and focused more on the military aspect of the struggle. The main criteria included sincere faith, a willingness to sacrifice one's life for Islam, and the ability to serve as a soldier. But it is also possible that many were driven by the pursuit of wealth, since these campaigns were often associated with looting and rewards. An example of references to such wars can be found in early Muslim chronicles. In particular, authors such as Al-Tabari describe the exploits of the first Muslim warriors, which were seen as acts pleasing to God. They often referred to words from the Quran that inspired the Ghazi. For example, one of the key verses is, "Go forth on campaign, whether it is easy or burdensome for you, and fight in the way of Allah with your wealth and your lives. That will be better for you if only you knew." This call became the spiritual foundation for the Ghazis and symbolized their commitments. Ghazawat became synonymous with military service for Muslims, especially among Turkic and Arab troops. In various chronicles and Arab sources, the role of Ghazi as warriors fighting in the path of Allah, their determination in battles, and their loyalty to religion is often emphasized. The Ghazi, fighting in the path of Allah, are noted among the first warriors who serve with true devotion to their cause. Their lives are full of dangers, but the reward is great, if not in this world, then in the next. Ibn Khaldun, The History of the Arabs. In the early stages of becoming Ghazis, their training was often self-organized. Many young Muslims trained within their communities, mastering skills such as horseback riding, archery, and swordsmanship. In the Middle Ages, with the emergence of more complex armies, training became centralized. For example, in the Anatolian Beyliks, there were special camps for training Ghazis, where young people not only learned military skills, but also studied the Quran. In the lands conquered during the Ghazawat, the Ghazis could not only fight, but also govern the population and maintain order, often acting as local governors. This also required maintaining religious order and ensuring the observance of Sharia law, which played a significant role in the spread of Islam. The service of the Ghazis was closely connected with the rule of the Arab caliphs. Ghazawat, as a holy war, became the basis for military campaigns aimed at spreading Islam. Ibn Khaldun, the famous Arab historian, mentions that the Ghazis were an important part of the caliph's army, especially during the rule of dynasties such as the Umayyads and the Abbasids. He notes that the Ghazis were often used to maintain order and security in the conquered territories, as well as to protect against external threats, for example, from the Byzantines or other infidels. One of the vivid examples of the service of the Ghazis is the period of the Seljuk rule in the 11th and 12th centuries. The Seljuk sultans actively supported participation in the Ghazawat, attracting warriors from various Turkic tribes to it. The main targets of the attacks were the lands of Byzantium. In the context of political instability in Constantinople and conflicts between the Orthodox and Catholics, Greek peasants of Asia Minor often found themselves in a difficult situation. Some of them sought refuge in large cities, but many, tired of the constant raids by the Ghazi, came under the protection of the Seljuk sultans in Konya. Sometimes they converted to Islam in order to keep their land and property. The raids of the Ghazi gradually moved further and further west, opening up new opportunities for waging Ghazawat. The Seljuks and their allies occupied abandoned Greek settlements, gradually settling the territory. By the beginning of the 14th century, the Ghazi had effectively paralyzed the economic infrastructure of Byzantium. Many agricultural regions that had previously fed the empire came under the control of the sultans, depriving Constantinople of food and weakening central authority. And my story about the Ghazi Wars would be incomplete without mentioning Ertugrul and his son Osman, who played a key role in the formation of the Ottoman Empire. So Ertugrul was the leader of the Oghuzkai tribe. Around 1230 they appeared within the borders of the Rum Sultanate and entered the service of the Seljuk Sultan Keykubat I. They became Ghazi warriors, and because of their merit on the battlefield, they received a plot of land from the Sultan, located on the western borders of the Sultanate. Having thus received their base, the Kayi began, over the next several decades, to raid neighboring non-Kayi and later Byzantine lands. After Ertugrul's death around 1280, his son Osman continued his work. Over time, their small landholding began to grow with new territories and laid the foundation for the Ottoman Empire, which continued the traditions of Ghazavat as one of the main principles of its military policy. By the end of the 14th and the beginning of the 15th century, with the strengthening of the Ottoman Empire and the transition to centralized rule, the role of the Ghazi began to change significantly. Ghazavat, as a religious mission, lost its former ideological significance. During this period, when the Ottoman Empire stabilized, the focus shifted to the formation of regular armies with professional soldiers, such as the Janissaries, who began to play the main role in the military structure. The Janissaries, who became highly disciplined infantrymen, took the place of the Ghazis, whose activities were mainly focused on religious wars and the spread of Islam. Over time, as external threats diminished and active conquests came to an end, the activities of the Ghazi became less important. The Gaza lost its central role in military ideology, and its functions were significantly reduced. In later centuries, when the expansion of the empire was practically complete, many former Ghazis began to transform into a new social class, the Bazuks. These people, usually former warriors, became mercenaries, often associated with violence and looting, especially during periods of truce and army inactivity. The Bazuks often terrorized the local Christian population in the conquered territories, becoming a symbol of violence and chaos. Nevertheless, many of these former Ghazis retained their military function and later participated in local conflicts or maintained order on the periphery of the empire. Well, that's all from me. Write in the comments which other military units and religious movements we should make a video about. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.